Good afternoon, everybody. I guess for some people it's good morning. Again, my name is Nancy Omolo, and I'm working with the National Treasury in Kenya. We have a big program we're running on climate change and low emission at the local level. So in this invitation, I'm very much glad to share something about gender, water, and the fishery sector. And it happens that one of the projects I was working on is on gender and blue economy. So blue economy is actually linked so much to the fishery department. So I would just like to start by saying that what Kenya is a water scarcity in Kenya. So according to United Nations Development Goal, SDG 6, clean water and sanitation sets various targets to make water suitable for use by the year 2030. But Kenya, which has a growing population, is known as a water scarce country due to its low, right? It's not to be, a water scarce country, and it has a population of around 50 million, and 32% of Kenyans rely on unimproved water sources such as ponds, shallow wells, and rivers, while 48% of Kenyans they lack access to basic sanitation solutions. So this challenge are especially evident in rural areas and urban slums where people can often unable to connect to packed water infrastructure. So water scarcity in Kenya is affecting Kenyan populations who rely on water resources, not only for drinking, but also for agriculture, including livestock and the fisheries. So livestock and the fishery sectors are really affected when there's no enough water, either the fishery, especially in the fluctuation of the water levels. So, and just to connect to what I've said about water scarcity, I'll just move to the next slide, which is about the blue economy. So, Africa First Sustainable Blue Economy Conference took place in Nairobi in the year 2018. It was co-hosted in Nairobi by the governments of Kenya, Canada, and Japan. So this conference, it aimed to capture concrete commitments and practical actions to sustainably tap the potential of the world oceans, seas, lakes, and rivers, particularly to support developing states, women, youth, and indigenous people. So actually, it is with this conference on the sustainable blue economy that the government now is focusing on the fishery sector. Otherwise, years back, the fishery sector was really marginalized as compared to the agriculture of the crop sector, which received a lot of support from the states. So according to Women and SDG 14, life underwater focus is to conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, marine resources for sustainable development. And therefore ensuring women access to leadership positions and empowering women action on oceans has a potential to allow them play a very key role in protecting the marines and tackling, the marine later. So just ensuring that, the oceans and the seas are sustainably used. So, globally, globally we've experienced the COVID-19. So COVID-19 impact on the fishery sector. So the Kenya Marine and Research Fishery Institute reported in 2017 that Kenya is ranked as the fourth major producer of agriculture in Africa. And with the 2014 production of, 24,000 metric tons. However, the aquaculture fish trade depends on active tourism in Kenya. And COVID-19 restrictions meant that most restaurants, accommodations ceased operation, particularly with the coastal counties. So this has really affected the sector. So apart from that, we also have a lot of women entrepreneurs. We know them in Swahili as Mama Karanga. So these are the women who fry fish. Typically retail fried fish in the evenings between 16 hours and 21 hours in market centers within the cities, coastal towns, lake towns, and villages. So they buy this fresh fish from the beaches or fresh fish retailing in shops and fry for sale. So the introduction of curfew cessation of movement led to reduced trading hours and reduced incomes. So many traders have had to suspend their operations. So basically, at the moment, Kenya has got a curfew time from 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. in the night. That's in the main cities. And in other cities which are badly affected by COVID, actually they have a curfew time from 6 a.m. to 6 in the evening. So actually people coming from work are not able to buy the fish. So the government has also suspended resource allocation for office operation, and this has affected, the fishing sector that include licensing of fishers and fishing vessels, patrol, data collection. So the whole process has been affected, and therefore means that the surveillance is not going on in those areas, and you have a lot of illegal fishing taking place. Yes, so gender roles in the fishery sector. So globally, women make up 47% of the 120 million people who earn money directly from fishing and processing. And women occupy a central place in the fishing sector in Kenya. For example, in Kenya, women represent 70% to 87% of fish workers involved in this activity, especially in the hatcheries, in the trade. So traditionally, fishing's main activity, a few women own boats. So traditionally, fishing is a male activity. And currently, you find a few women who own boats, but most women are involved in the processing and trading of the fish, purchase of fish from fishermen, cooking fish in restaurants or at home, serve fried fish in the kiosks. Those are small restaurants or shops. They hawk the fish. They dry smoked or cooked fish from door to door, and in marketplaces or in the restaurants. So majority of women still choose fishery as a last option after they have tried many other activities, with few exception of women who, have done this trade for, longer periods and from one generation to another. And this is because of the low profit, as market prices are not very well regulated. Most women involved in this business, they're illiterate, they have got low level of literacy. Majority of them, you find they are divorced, single mothers, including girls who got pregnant and dropped out of school. This is mainly because maybe starting a fishing business requires low capital. And I would have loved to share some photos, but I had some challenges accessing my databank. So the key barriers to women participation in the fishing sector. So one of them is limited capacity. So women engaged in the fishing sector, they lack access to capital, investments, and equipment to grow their businesses. And there's not enough focus. There's not enough. I wanted to move this away. It's interfering. There's not enough focus by the financial institutions, including microfinance institutions, in the fishing sector, despite its potential. And maybe this is not only limited to the fishing sectors. There are even other agricultural crop value chains whereby the banks don't think that they're important enough. It's a place that they can put some money into. So therefore, developing innovative financial services specifically suited to women needs, such as equipment leasing for indigenous women and women cooperatives working in these fishery sectors is very much needed. So other barriers include structural barriers. So the growth in the blue economy is framed in the context of the mass exploitation of untapped resources via large investments, with the assumption that this will create jobs for the locals, small-scale fishers, and women. Conversely, most of these jobs are low-skilled. So big capital prevents innovation from reaching the small-scale fisheries where women tend to work, which disproportionately impact them. So despite the fact that women provide more than 85% of the landed catch, even when investment is available, it still reaches men first. Then likewise, the market for licensing in the fishery sector threatens the local catches and livelihood by facilitating unregulated access of foreign fleets in the territorial waters in the otherwise exclusive economic zones of several African countries. So despite growing research, evidence of the negative impact of the large-scale activities on the degradation of the ecosystem, it remains insufficiently addressed at the moment. So those are some of the structural, barriers also to the fishing sector. So, social and cultural barriers, really remain a key barrier to women participation in the fishing sector. So women participation and contribution in the fishery sector is often overlooked, undervalued, and underrepresented in most fishing communities in Kenya. And as I said earlier, that traditionally fishing, was a traditional male activity. So discriminatory gender and social norms, they prohibit women from participating in certain aspects of the fishing sector, creating an additional burden on them. In order for transformative change, investment, and innovation to be realized, it is not enough to simply promote jobs for women in the sector. There's a need for local ideas for constructive shift in the cultural and social norms that challenge the idea that it is sufficient for projects to merely include women in order for research or development to be empowering and transform gender dynamics. And therefore, for example, this need for male engagement. How do we, engage male, both the adults and the youth, to ensure that, women can also successfully participate in this value chain? And we can also use some of this theater within the communities, whereby we have role play and just kind of try to normalize that, women can participate in this value chain, and they're successful, and some women have actually participated in the fishing sector and they've been able to educate their children. Whereby I'll be looking at the lack of women voices in the decision making. So as much as over 70% of women are involved in these fishing sectors, actually women voices are still largely absent in decision making. So there's need to work closely with the civil society organization working at a grassroots level to amplify women voices. And I think at the same time, they also need to be a top-down, at the decision making at the government level to ensure that, women are really participating in the decision making. So in my last slide, I'll just say asanteni sana in Swahili, which means thank you. Thank you so much for listening.